Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. I am John Keir, and Austin Davidson is my co-host. How you doing, Austin?
Doing great. How you doing?
Doing pretty well, and Steelers Nation has to be feeling pretty good after a win over the New England Patriots, something that has not happened in over 8 years. The Pittsburgh Steelers come away with a shocking 17-10 victory, and maybe slaying the beast isn't the right term, given the fact that it was only a regular season game, but it was a very important win for the Steelers, and obviously something that not many Pittsburgh fans and analysts really expected over the course of the week leading up to the game. The Steelers really seemed like true underdogs, and even though they were technically favored, weren't they? Or was New England favored?
New England was favored.
New England was favored, that is right. It was only like 2 or 3 points. It wasn't a big spread, but the Steelers at the end of the day got the job done, and it was not the way we all thought it was going to happen. 17-10 the final. Just wow, what a game. What were your just kind of initial takeaways?
My initial takeaways was, well, holy cow, the Steelers broke a 5-game losing streak against the Patriots, and it was a much-needed win. Ramon Foster probably said it best after the game, saying that if they lost, they were going to have some pretty bad words. And then just another thought I had is, like, what do the Steelers do with their kicker now? I mean, for me, it's an easy choice, but, I mean, for them, it's probably not. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, what is that easy choice? Is that to cut him?
I think it's to cut him. I think you got to.
I don't think the Steelers are going to. Did you see Mike Tomlin's press conference after the game?
Yeah, I saw that he was like sticking up for him and saying he's our kicker.
So that doesn't look like that's going to be happening. No, it was such a euphoric kind of feeling. It really felt like it felt, would it be wrong to say that the Steelers might not? I almost feel like the Steelers don't win this game if last year didn't happen the way it did. I feel like the way last year's game went made this game so much bigger, in part because of the losing streak that they just went through, but I feel like the way they lost last year, this game meant so much more.
Yeah, no, this game was it was a revenge game. It was definitely a revenge game.
And the whole week, the Steelers were doing things differently, and we'll get into it, of course, in a minute here, but just a remarkable win, and really, you can't say enough good things about a lot of different individuals, and as far as the unit goes, particularly the defense, a much maligned group that has struggled all season, especially against tougher opponents, and yes, make no mistake, the Patriots made a lot of their own mistakes in this one, but the defense held their own. I certainly would not have expected that, midway through the second quarter, Antonio Brown's touchdown, I would not have expected that to be the game-winning score. And it just, it really speaks to the schemes that Keith Butler set up and the execution of the players, something that we've not seen in tune all year. I don't have anything but praise for them. Yeah,
it's really just an incredible performance of the defense altogether. Like you said, they were bailed out a few times, but, I mean, if you told me that the Steelers won with 17 points and with Ben having 2 interceptions, I would have never believed you. I would have bet the money on the Patriots right then and there, but the defense really held up in this game.
Absolutely they did, and I guess why don't we start going through the game, and the way this game started, it would have made it seem even more shocking. Like if exactly the scenario you said, where like you say the Steelers only needed 17 points. If you were a slight believer then, you definitely would not have been after the first 2 drives of the game. Immediately, both teams put up 2 touchdowns, so you're looking at a 7-7 game right off the bat. And how strange is it that the teams put up 14 combined points on their first drives, and then there's 13 combined points the rest of the way? It's just one of those really weird things, but the Steelers get the ball, and this was already a change, and they already noted coming out of the gate that they didn't do any player introductions at Heinz Field, something that's pretty much never happened before. Then the Steelers elect to receive the ball, which they almost never do, and they go right down the field, have a long scoring drive, and we already saw Eli Rogers back, and that was kind of big. Eli Rogers quickly made an impact and caught a big third down conversion on the first third down of the game. We saw a couple big runs from Jalen Samuels, and it was capped off ultimately by a 3rd and goal touchdown to Vance McDonald, and it was just. That's exactly how you want to start that game. It was really a statement drive by the Steelers.
Oh, yeah. I really love that aggressiveness of winning and then taking the ball. I think they realized that, hey, we need to take this ball and get up on the Patriots fast. We want to stick it right to them. And to comment on what you said, I love seeing Rodgers involved early. It was a nice contested catch on 3rd down, too. So, obviously, Ben had a lot of trust in him from seeing him in practice. And he was practicing with first team this past week. So then, correct me if I'm wrong, but on that Jalen Samuels 25-yard gain, I believe we saw something that we saw for most of this game, which was something we were not used to, really the Steelers using, and they used it a lot, which was the counter.
Toss counter.
I'm forgetting the name of it. It's just the counter toss. Why am I stupid? The counter toss, and it was just a great play that the Steelers kept using. It was just working against the Patriots. I don't know if they saw it work once and then just decided, hey, let's keep running at them, or if this is something that they generally knew that the Patriots were weak against. But it was just working so well all day. Jalen Samuels just kept getting so many yards on that kind of play. But there was one thing I wanted to talk about, one thing bad on the first drive. I really wanted Ben to be a little bit more accurate. There was a free play to AB on, I think it was 2nd and 6, where Trey Flowers had a defensive offsides penalty. And he had a step on his guy. If Ben was just a little bit more accurate, that would have been a touchdown there. But, I mean, at the end of the day, having the longer drive was a good thing. But at the time when I saw it, I was like, I just wish he was more accurate. I'm going to be upset if, this just turns into 3 instead of 7. But, obviously, with the pass to Vance McDonald, it was still a touchdown. I really wish that was Jesse James. Everything in me, I was wishing for that to be Jesse James in that moment. But, I mean, I was just happy for points.
That counter toss you were alluding to, we've seen the Steelers run that toss out of that formation a lot. I would imagine they saw something on the tape going into the game. We know the Patriots don't have an overly talented defense, but they work well as a unit. They probably pursue really well, and you think that the Steelers probably saw something about them possibly over-pursuing there. So that gives Samuels a chance to cut it back and get into some open space, and they actually ran it on back-to-back plays, a 6-yarder and then a 25-yard play. I think they ran it 2 other times in the game. All those plays, I'm pretty sure, went for 5+ yards, so it was a very effective route or effective play. And he caught a 10-yard pass too, so he was really fantastic on that opening drive. Certainly not what we expected coming out of the gate. I mean, you expected Samuels to be used, but not in the fashion that he was used in this game. So the Steelers go up 7-0, and then the Patriots they get the ball, and immediately on the first third down, there's a too many men on the field penalty, and that's just inexcusable. That can't happen. And then the very next play, the most wide open you'll ever see a receiver this year on a touchdown, Chris Hogan completely left uncovered, and he could basically waltz in for the touchdown. So we've heard a lot talked about this play. Who really was at fault here?
Well, firstly, not only was it the biggest margin of this year, it was the biggest margin in the past 2 years. 19 yards at its peak was a defender from Chris Hogan on that touchdown run, which is the worst margin in 2 years. So there's that. And on that, who is to blame? I'm going to put almost all my blame on Sean Davis, because based on what I read that Artie Burns was told to stick with his man the entire way. And so with Artie Burns sticking to his man the entire way, at first glance, I thought Joe Hayden was supposed to stick with his man the entire way, but based on what people have said, the rest of the defense was in zone, so Artie was doing his job, Joe Hayden was doing his job, and that just means that Sean Davis went to the wrong guy, because now Joe Hayden's in his spot, Artie Burns in his spot, Sean Davis got confused and let the guy run completely around him. He didn't even see him. So I'm placing most of the blame on Davis. Of course, I'm sure that they could turn around and say Joe Hayden was supposed to be in man coverage and supposed to be on his guy. So then I would switch the blame to hit both him and Sean Davis, because at the end of the day, Sean Davis is the safety on that side of the field, and he came over and he was supposed to stay on his side, I believe at least. So I'm going to put like 95% of the blame on Sean Davis right now, maybe 5% on Hayden in case he messed up. But really, based on what I saw, it's really just got to be on Sean Davis. Who do you think was at fault?
Well, I know it really looked like it was already based on the coaches benching him, but it seems like it was just a schematic thing where they wanted to do something with Artie, but the Patriots quickly found out what they were doing, so they had to shut it down. And I felt bad for Artie. I mean, it wasn't really his fault, but he was still getting roasted by the fans, and, this is your first chance to do something, and you get 3 plays, and it's like, well, welcome back to the bench. Hope you enjoy it.
It's just such a shame too. You got to almost feel bad for him at this point.
I feel bad for him. I mean, I really felt like this was going to be a big week for Artie Burns, and on the first play, he actually hit Edelman pretty hard on the comebacker there. Not necessarily a sign of things to come, but I really felt like he wasn't going to have a great day, but I was hoping this would be a good change in confidence for him. But if anything, this hurts his confidence and lowers it to a level even he hasn't had it at this season, which is, it's not good. And now I'm starting to wonder if he's even actually going to get cut this year, which could, not even Jarvis Jones got cut before the end of his contract.
I can't see him going before the end of his contract. I think he's still a cheap cornerback option that the Steelers can use while they draft another guy. So I can't see him getting cut, but after this season. But I mean, I'm sure after the next season, where the Steelers will have to activate the 5th-year option, he's definitely gone. No doubt in my head.
So that play was just a mess, really, and based on what Ryan Clark said, a former Steelers safety, it sounds like it was also on Davis, which it's just completely inexcusable. That can't happen. And as soon as that does happen, you're just kind of thinking like, man, it's going to be one of those games, huh? So the offense really has to get it done. And right away, the second drive, the Steelers start moving the ball again. Jalen Samuels gets the ball for 10 yards. Jesse James catches his only pass for 9 yards. Then the drive gets to midfield, and it kind of stalls. A great individual effort by Kyle Van Noy with a perfectly timed blitz. Right up the middle, sacked Ben Roethlisberger. And now I want to point out that Jalen Samuels basically let him run right by him. That was a horrible play, and I'm not saying that Samuels, if he got in his way, he necessarily would have stopped him because Van Noy was running like a train, and he probably would have just run him over, but it could have bought Roethlisberger another second to get the ball away or get away. But obviously that's just an inexperienced pass blocker right there. And then a coverage sack on 3rd and 16 after what I hated I thought was a terrible play call on 2nd and 20. A 4-yard run, essentially admitting defeat on the drive, which usually will lose you games against the Patriots. And then I didn't like that sequence.
Yeah, the Kyle Van Noy sack, the Samuels definitely needs a pass protect there. Like you said, though, I think that sack would have happened anyway because Kyle Van Noy, Jalen Samuels had a bad rep, but Kyle Van Noy had a very good one. He had timed that really well, and he came in really fast and likely would have run right over Samuels, even if Samuels was there. But like you said, it could have bought him an extra second and maybe he doesn't get that sack. But it's funny, on this drive was the only 2 sacks of the game for the Patriots. They happened within 3 plays of each other. Jonathan Jones came in on a coverage sack 2 plays later after that 4-yard run by Jalen Samuels. And it was really just a coverage sack. And those were the only 2 sacks that the Patriots got all day. It was just weird that they came in within 3 plays of each other.
Then Jordan Berry with a 44-yard punt. Not a bad punt, but it was fielded at the New England 22. I really felt like Berry could have unleashed it a little further. I mean, that's not necessarily pinning your opponent deep.
Yeah, I definitely wanted that to be a little bit longer, especially with that field position. He could have put a little bit extra on that. I guess he was scared it was going to bounce out the back of the end zone.
We see a couple drops on the Patriots' next drive. One by Julian Edelman, and that was a 3-man rush where he had all day, and then one on James White on a 3rd and 8. The Steelers catch a break there, and then they get the ball back at their own 8-yard line. The Steelers then go right down the field. A huge grab by Smith-Schuster, a 22-yarder to get out of the shadow of their own end zone. That negated a holding penalty on David DeCastro. I'm not sure if it was or not, but I remember you texted me that might have been DeCastro's first penalty of the year. And they ran the same route twice for Smith-Schuster, so Roethlisberger clearly saw something he liked. They got out of there. A couple of big plays to Eli Rogers. He caught another contested pass. James Washington caught his first pass of the game, and then Eli Rogers drew a key pass interference call, which was a soft call on Jonathan Jones, mind you, but no sympathy. And it worked out because the next play later, Roethlisberger found Antonio Brown on a perfectly designed play for 7. And it really felt like the offense was cruising at this point.
Oh, yeah. At this point, it looked like it was going to be a shootout between these two teams. Obviously, that changed. But it all started with that Juju mossing J.C. Jackson. That was a great catch by him. That ball hit his hand and didn't move. It was so good. And then I just got to keep giving it to Eli Rogers. At this point on this drive, Rogers did all he needed to do for me after that, with 2 catches for 12 yards and that defensive pass interference call. Basically, Eli Rogers did all I wanted from him and more as the wide receiver 3. So it was a good comeback for him in this game. But, yeah, that's really all I had to say about that drive. The touchdown was really nice, good design play. And, I mean, even if it didn't get complete, there was a holding call on Gilmore. So really good play design.
Let me ask you, what kind of element does Eli Rogers bring to the offense? Because we know that him and Ryan Switzer are similar yet different slot receivers. What does it mean to be able to have both of those guys on the field at the same time? Because we saw both of them lined up in the backfield at times in this game too.
Yeah, that was interesting. We knew that the Steelers always did it with Ryan Switzer since they traded for Switzer, but we never saw that with Rodgers in the past. And now Rodgers was lining up in the backfield, and they're using him just like Switzer. So definitely interesting. I want to see Eli Rogers on a rush. I wonder if it's going to be good because I don't think he got a chance to rush in this game. I believe he got moved into the backfield and then just kind of he ran a route. He didn't get to carry the ball, but I do think it makes the Steelers a little bit more dynamic on who they could use, and it makes their offensive play calling that much more interesting because let's say Ryan Switzer and Eli Rogers are out there at the same time. Now you can bring either one of them right next to Ben and just confuse the defense a little bit more. And they could be either or. They don't know which one because since both have lined up back there, I like the versatility of being able to put Rodgers or Switzer in both those spots. So I think it brings versatility to the Steelers.
It really helps having basically two of the same player, and they're different players in space, but they both do basically the same thing when it comes to their important possession receivers in the slot, and they're versatile, and I think that could be important going forward for the offense. But anyways, that touchdown was a perfectly designed play by Randy Fichtner, something they saw on tape. One of the few times Brown wasn't bracketed in coverage, and it was a perfect route and a good throw. Just excellent job by the coaching staff to recognize that tendency from the Patriots defense, and they came away with a nice play. A critical play on the Patriots' ensuing drive. They started to get the ball rolling a bit. A 25-yard run by Sony Michel was wiped out by offensive holding. That would have put them inside Steelers territory with a commanding offensive drive. Oh, and by the way, that was the longest drive. The Steelers touchdown right there was the longest touchdown drive the Patriots had allowed all year, by the way, 92 yards. But anyways, back to the run. That went from being a second down at the New England 44. It could have been in Steelers territory to all of a sudden it was 2nd and 17 back at the Patriots 34-yard line, and they end up punting 3 plays later. So that I really I circled that play. I figured that was going to be a huge play in the game, and it kind of stymied the Patriots' attack because you think about it, they hadn't crossed midfield at this point, and that kept this being true as well because they had to punt, and of course they downed it at the Steelers' 1-yard line, but this was a turning point in the game in my mind.
Oh yeah, that the holding saved the Steelers there. That really, thank God for that because it looked like the Patriots were going to drive straight down the field because he already had an 11-yard run on there, also had a 5-yard run, so it wasn't looking good. But man, we really got to see what it looks like to be against one of the best special teams units in the league. That down punt was probably the most athletic down punt I've ever seen. One of the most high-effort plays between three guys where both jumped into the end zone, flicked the ball back, and were able to get it at the 1-yard line. Just incredible plays from the Patriots special teams. That's what we were expecting coming in. But following that was just another whoever's telling Tomlin to challenge, I think needs to get fired. I think we're at 10 straight bad challenges for Tomlin. Bad meaning he didn't get it overturned or didn't get what he wanted. It was clear as day that they got it, and whoever told him to challenge was super stupid, and it shouldn't have never been challenged. It's just terrible. I want to know who is the guy upstairs that's saying this stuff, because it's obviously not. They're not very good at their job.
Yeah, that I read somewhere the last overturned challenge, I think it was the wild card game against the Dolphins back in January of 2017. So that means we're approaching 2 full seasons without a challenge won, which is just insanity.
It's absolutely terrible. Just 10 straight without a win. Awful.
And you're right. Whoever is making that decision, they need to be at the very least reassigned to something different, because what they're doing is it's not working right now. So not very good. That down punt was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen from a punt downing. Have you ever played spike ball? Yeah, you've played spike ball. I brought my set once, right?
I actually don't think I have.
You know what spike ball is, though, right?
Not really, but I think I have in my head what it looks like.
Okay. Well, I'll explain it to you later, but I felt like I was watching spike ball there. I felt like I was watching some people play it, so it was kind of exciting. But the Steelers are at their own 1-yard line, and Stephen Ridley gets his first carry against his old team. A big-time block by Roosevelt Nixon. The angry Stephen Ridley runs for 12 yards right up the middle. Excuse me. That was a big run. And then Roethlisberger with the big pass, and then Samuels with a big run. Really felt like the Steelers were about to basically, just jam the ball right down the Patriots on the drive, and they were going to cap it off with a big score. And then Roethlisberger with a bad pass and a bad decision. That one really took the air out of the offense. It was really a killer, and I know at the time it didn't come back to hurt him, but man, that one hurt.
Yeah, it just seems like Deron Harmon is the Steelers' kryptonite. Obviously, he got the interception last year, and then he got 2 in this game. I believe that it's either 5 or 6. He has 5 or 6 interceptions against the Steelers. He's literally their kryptonite. I mean, he didn't really do anything on the play. Then overthrew Juju, which sucked. I mean, it had to be perfectly placed, that ball, because Juju was draped, and that ball basically had to be put in a certain area, and Ben threw it too high, which let Harmon just get an easy pick, but luckily Juju was right there just to really. Juju actually smacked him. Juju got a nice tackle on that, I wanted to say. But it's just not a good interception to have. Not. It didn't look good when you were giving the Patriots the ball at their own 24.
And it was a poor decision and a poorly placed ball. James Washington was in one-on-one without safety help down the seam as well, so that would have been an interesting attempt instead. But the Patriots take over. The defense comes up with a big stop. T.J. Watt forces a bad pass. He played really well. The Steelers get the ball back, this time at their own 28, so the field position wasn't awful. They still were able to change the field position on that drive anyways. Then the Steelers moved the ball a little bit, but another punt. This time another bad punt from Barry, only 34 yards, and it was fielded at the New England 19. So again, it's inside the 20, which is technically what you want, but I just didn't feel like Barry got the job done there.
Yeah, not exactly what we want to see again. 34 yards, a little bit rough, if you ask me. And it needs to be inside the 10 is ideal, but I mean, I guess inside the 20 is okay.
So this was the Patriots' last drive of the half. The Steelers come up with a stop on a 3rd and 8 where Cordarrelle Patterson apparently had a great effort, but Mike Hilton and Joe Hayden could have brought him down sooner, but they hit him, and he's able to stay up long enough to get the first down until he didn't. They reviewed the play. and ruled that his shin was down just a yard short. So the Patriots come out and they're acting like they're going to go for it. And this is a very bizarre instance, but this is kind of a Belichick schooling Tomlin thing. He then trots out his punt team on, lets the clock run down and punts it, and the Steelers kneel on it, and that's the end of the half. How did you feel about it? Because at first I was thinking like call timeout, and then I was also like, what if they actually use this timeout to run a play and they get the first down and they score? But I think they should have called a timeout.
Well, first I was surprised the refs marked Patterson short. It looked inconclusive to me. Like his shin, I couldn't tell if his shin was all the way down at that point. So I was really surprised when the refs decided it was conclusive enough to overturn it. But Hilton, he needed to make that tackle where he was down because, in my opinion, I think Mike Tomlin made the right choice by not calling the timeout because that's probably exactly what they wanted. It saves them a timeout, and now they go for it with they could do a quarterback sneak, and it doesn't waste any time. And Tom Brady has been one of the best at that. So, but if Hilton and Hayden made the tackle right where it was, the Steelers could have called a timeout with like 1:07 to go and could have had a chance to drive downfield. And also just they had 2 timeouts at the time, so it also plays into it that challenge, that loss on the timeout really sucked. It really would have screwed them over if they did get that tackle because they would have been down an extra timeout. But I guess fortunately for them, for Tomlin, he got saved because they were left with no time, so that they couldn't even drive downfield. But I do think that not calling the timeout was the right call because I think if they do, the Patriots want to play.
So the Patriots get the ball at the start of the second half. So the Steelers defense held the first challenge, and then the second challenge, they get aided by a third Patriots drop, this time by Josh Gordon. The Steelers get the ball back, and they're moving the ball. And James Washington, of all people, comes up with 2 huge catches, a 32-yard grab over Jason McCourty, and a 24-yard catch and run running through Patrick Chung. Jalen Samuels gets the Steelers down inside the 5. Then an ugly situation where after a no gain on first and goal, Roethlisberger throws it away, intentional grounding on second down, and then Vance McDonald nearly makes a great grab on third and goal, but it's incomplete. And then Chris Boswell misses a 32-yard field goal. This was crazy. It really felt like such a deflating miss that it was like, I feel like the defense is just going to give up a touchdown drive here. That's really what it felt like.
Honestly, that field goal kick, I was so mad. I was like, this is going to lose the Steelers the game, isn't it? Like, I was so upset at that point. I thought that was going to seal Boswell's fate and be gone at the end of the game. But really, that almost touchdown to Vance was beautiful. If only he just dragged his right foot, it would have been amazing. And like you said, James Washington was huge on that drive. He got 56 of those yards by himself. So, and I loved him shaking off the Patrick Chung off his legs and just running through the tackle. It was amazing. We also saw the counter. This is one of the few times we saw the counter toss again with Jalen Samuels. He got the 14-yard gain on a counter toss. So, just great. And then obviously, but he got capped off by that Boswell miss, which really, really, it didn't feel good.
Mind you, he pushed it really far too. Like, it missed the kicking net too. It was just ugly, and you might as well call that a turnover because you're getting that close and you're not getting a touchdown or any points there. So the Patriots take over, they start moving the ball, and a weird sequence here. The Patriots get another penalty called on them after a 17-yard pass to Julian Edelman. Okay, so they redo it now. It's 1st and 20, an 11-yard pass to Julian Edelman this time, which, again, we've seen during this losing streak a ton of yardage the Steelers have given up after a penalty that has made it like 2nd and 20 or something like that, or 3rd and 14. They've given up a ton of yardage, and it's not good. But then T.J. Watt sacks Tom Brady. But then a DPI on Joe Hayden gives them 21 yards and a first down, and they start moving the ball again. And you're starting to think, oh boy, this is going to be bad. They get down inside Steelers territory, and it just feels inevitable that they're going to score to tie the game right here. But then the defense holds. They're able to, because they were running the ball right down the Steelers' throat, but they come up with a big stop on Sony Michel on 2nd and 6. And then on the 3rd and 4 pass play, this was a huge play by both Bud Dupree and Terrell Edmonds. Tell me what you saw on that play.
Oh my gosh, I thought Edelman was going to push forward for it, but luckily Edmonds got there, really hit him. Bud Dupree nearly intercepted that though. Bud Dupree read it perfectly. I was shocked that they stopped him there. I was just really happy about it.
We saw the Patriots run that play a couple times in that game. That's a typical 2-point conversion, goal to go kind of play. We saw the Steelers run it against the Browns this year, but this time Bud Dupree tipped the pass, and I want to give a huge shout out to Bud Dupree. Remember, he tore his pectoral muscle earlier a couple weeks ago. He's been playing through that, and he left the game injured as well. He's been playing like a warrior, and he hasn't been playing great, but I mean, given all the injuries he's sustained and how often he has missed time with injuries throughout his short career, I want to really tip my cap to him because I've ripped hard on him this year, but he's been impressing me the last few weeks. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like Bud Dupree's actually played. This might be Bud Dupree's best season, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, you look at his numbers, and it looks like this has been his best season with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, you could say 2016 was his most effective season because he was really good in that 8-game stretch he played at the end of the season and in the playoffs. But I mean, let's be honest, if we're looking at a whole body of work, he's had the production and it hasn't always been there, but he's been adequate. I think that's what you can say is he's been an adequate defender this year.
Yeah, that's basically, I mean, out of a first-round pick, you do want a little bit more, but, with what we've come to learn from Dupree, this is basically what I've been hoping for, just for him to be a adequate starter.
And that's you can live with that, too. But in any case, Terrell Edmonds, another first-round pick, he made a huge play, and he didn't make the tackle alone, per se, because Edelman was kind of getting through him, but he fought through a block and held him up long enough for the rest of the defense to get him there and knock him down. So it was a big-time play by the rookie. He played very well again in this game. He's been playing better as the season has gotten later on. And then at the end of the third quarter, the Steelers start moving the ball down the field again, and an unfortunate interception at midfield. This one I felt was more on Antonio Brown. I know it's a tough grab, but you have to hang on to it, and then it's just kind of unlucky that Harmon was right there, as he seems to always be.
Yeah, I actually don't put any of the blame on Ben because I felt like Brown was open. I put 80% blame on Brown, and then I actually put 20% on Eli Rogers because Eli Rogers slipped and messed up the timing of the routes, and he got in Antonio Brown's way, which is what jarred the ball. Antonio Brown ran into Eli Rogers. It's not like the Patriots defenders really stopped him from catching that ball. It was Eli Rogers. I mean, and I want Antonio Brown to catch that, like you said. Anyway, it was he didn't have a defender close to him, and he should have still caught it. But I do have to give Eli Rogers some flack because he shouldn't have been that close to AB when AB was catching it. The route just got messed up because he tripped up at the beginning of it. And with the timing messed up, I don't think he was supposed to be in that area when Antonio Brown was there. Because when I first saw it, I was like, that's wacky. Why are there two, Antonio Brown basically, he didn't catch it, but I mean, he brought it in with Eli Rogers, right on top of him. So I do have to put some blame on Rogers there because I think he messed that up a little bit.
And now at this point, the Steelers have 2 turnovers, almost 3 with the Boswell miss, and you're thinking it's pretty hard for them to win the game now. I'm thinking they're probably not going to win.
Yeah, it looked like the tide was changing. I mean, with that interception, there's almost no way you thought that the Patriots weren't going to score off of that after doing nothing the rest of the game. And
sure enough, they start going down the field right away, and Rob Gronkowski finally catches his first pass. He catches a 13-yard pass to get into Steelers territory. Julian Edelman gets a big pass down to the Steelers 15, and then Gronkowski converts a 3rd and 8 with a great effort on his part, and then a holding penalty on Marcus Cannon. He had a rough game for the Patriots, backs the Patriots up, and then the Steelers sniff out a first down screen. And then you want to take us through that 2nd and 16 play, a wild sequence of events, and something that I never would have believed if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes.
Well, I really, the 2nd and 16 was something of beauty. Really shout out to Marcus Cannon for getting that holding call because it let it happen. But obviously, you see Cameron Hayward coming off the top of the screen about to hit Brady, and Brady, while he's just about to get hit, unleashes it, just throwing it in the area of Rob Gronkowski. And then Joe Hayden does what only in the past 10 years, in the past 13 years, the only other defensive back to do it was Chris Hope for the Steelers. And Joe Hayden gets a beautiful toe tap interception above Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman. And we learned that Rob Gronkowski still can't play safety. And Joe Hayden, it was just beautiful. It was a thing of beauty. I lost my mind seeing that, the interception right there. And it was just, I want to shout out Cameron Hayward for forcing Tom Brady to make that stupid decision. You don't really see Tom Brady making decisions like that, especially in the red zone. Like, that's unheard of. This is how you know that he's starting to head downhill. This is how you know this isn't like Brady that we all used to. It's just not it's a terrible decision. Sort of like what happened with Cam Newton several weeks ago, where Vince Williams picked him off for pick 6. It's just, you can't throw while you're like going down without seeing down the field. Like, he just kind of chucked and hoped.
Yeah, that was a very uncharacteristic mistake. The first red zone interception he's thrown in almost 2 years. And the Hayward into it really forcing the pressure, a very odd decision by Brady to throw that. And Hayden just made a fantastic individual effort, and that felt like a season-altering interception. And the Steelers, all of a sudden, they had the momentum. It was now, sub 10 minutes. I forget exactly how much were left. I think it was just under 8 minutes, actually. The Steelers get the ball back. They're down at their own 4, so it's huge, but the game's not over yet. I mean, a 3-and-out, you're right back in the same situation you were just in, and the Patriots know you're running the ball, so it's a 3rd and 7 real quickly, and a huge grab by Vance McDonald. Really felt like the Patriots were going to score if they got the ball back after that. McDonald with the huge clutch grab and a perfect throw by Ben Roethlisberger on that play. Roethlisberger, as we know, the 2 turnovers, he wasn't perfect. He missed some throws, but he made the plays at the end of the game that Tom Brady didn't, and this was one of those throws that he really just had right on the money.
Oh, yeah, incredible throw on that third down conversion to Vance. I was kind of scared because Vance has been hitting the hands and, like, dropped it in the past, but Vance came in clutch and converted. And then next, we saw it happen again with Jalen Samuels on third down. And I want to commend Jalen Samuels on that next third down so much because he did more than just convert that, get 20 yards, and that. Jalen Samuels, a lot of people are talking about him falling in bounds, which they should because that was a great football play by him. But Jalen Samuels, before he even went out on that route, helped Matt Filer by hitting his guy, forcing the guy that Filer was blocking back inside, which allowed Ben to scramble back out. So Jalen Samuels is responsible for even letting Ben scramble out of the pocket like that, and then he gets the catch and goes for 20 yards. And then he falls inbounds to get to keep the clock running. It was just great sequence by Jalen Samuels. That was probably my favorite play from Jalen Samuels all game. I mean, I know he had a 25-yarder earlier, but this one was my favorite for all those reasons. He did so much good in one play that I was ecstatic.
And not to mention, at the time, it was the biggest third down of the day for the Patriots defense. They needed a stop. They came with their most exotic blitz. They had a delayed blitz, a stunt, a safety, I think, coming in. And that Samuels chip really got the defender kind of in the way of a couple, I forget the other defender, but it really slowed down the timing of the Patriots blitz, gave Roethlisberger the time to get away, and just great improvisational situation there. And Roethlisberger to Samuels, it really felt like it really felt like Samuels had been playing in the league for years when you saw him make that play. You're usually not sure if a rookie is going to make that kind of a play with Ben Roethlisberger, who's typically the master at improvisational stuff, but it looked really good and the protection was great. And now the Patriots have to start burning their timeouts. Another 20-yard play after a holding penalty tacked onto a 15-yard run. And the Patriots finally stiffen up at right around their 30-yard line. So you really would have wanted one more first down, but to be honest with you, the Steelers offense took 5 minutes off the clock and all 3 Patriots timeouts. And, they're at the 30-yard line. It's 4th and 6. How are you feeling with Chris Boswell coming onto the field to take one more field goal attempt and with how the offense had done on that drive?
Start with the offense on that drive. There's one thing I wanted to comment on that I didn't like. That 20-yard play where Jalen Samuels rushed for the first down. I didn't like accepting the penalty. Accepting the penalty stopped the clock, and I wasn't a fan when he already had gotten the first down. I mean, obviously you want to get into field goal range. I would have bet on my guys getting into field goal range instead, because clock at the time was at 2:52. You could have had it down to about 2:20 before you run the next play. So I wasn't a fan of that. It obviously worked out in the end, but I wish that they didn't accept it, because it stopped the clock. Obviously they got stopped, and they were able to go in field goal range. But I mean,
that's good
for me,
analysis,
at that time, I didn't think that was field goal range. I didn't think, unless it was kicking from 20 yards out, it would be field goal range. So I wasn't exactly ecstatic. I had zero faith in Boswell. I was watching. I'm like, he's going to miss this, and the Patriots are going to have great field position. They're going to drive down and get a touchdown and win the game. But obviously, he turned around and kicked a 48-yard field goal after missing a 32-yard field goal. What do you say? I don't know what you say about that. How do you miss a 32 and then come back and hit a 48? And that probably saved him from being cut, because if he admits that, first of all, I think that the fans in the stands might have charged the field and escorted him out themselves, but likely that's what's allowing Tomlin to keep him, because he hit that last field goal, which I don't agree with. I still think that he needs to be cut. I still think that it was luck more than anything, but I'm just glad he hit it, okay? I am excited that he was able to come in and be clutch like we used to see Chris Boswell do.
It was Redemption Sunday personified, and really the Steelers season in a microcosm kind of right there. You lose to the Raiders on the road, the worst team in football, missing a 32-yard field goal, and then you come back home and you beat the Patriots making a 48-yard field goal. So I think that pretty much personifies his season and the Steelers season right there. I want to point out that it was a great play by J.C. Jackson on that 3rd and 6 from the Patriots 30, and I don't like throwing the ball deep. I forget which play it was. There was a deep play. I forget it, but in any case, that was just an amazing sequence, and I didn't have a ton of confidence in Boswell either, but Tomlin said that he made that decision when he walked into the stadium that day, so they were going to go with him. They were going to ride and die with him, and it worked out in this case, but just over 2 minutes to go. The Patriots have the 2-minute warning, just that, no timeouts. How you feeling with that much time left on the clock and Tom Brady on the other side?
Oh, I know he's making it to the Steelers side of the field, but after the defense has been this good this game, I had hope for once. So how did you feel?
I felt probably about as confident as you could be given the Steelers and Patriots history. So I knew it was going to be, decided on the Steelers' end of the field. For me, it was just don't give up a big play before the 2-minute warning. And technically they didn't, because the Patriots 2-minute warning, they get to the 40-yard line, a false start, so they're back at the 35 right after the 2-minute warning. But then there was a huge pass play to Julian Edelman. He was really wide open, and then they start methodically working their way down the field. They get down to the Steelers 11, and another penalty, this one on Shaq Mason. This was a huge penalty, so now it's 2nd and 15 at the 21, and that probably saved the day for the Steelers, because Brady had a couple bad plays after that, and a couple of uncatchable passes. T.J. Watt made a couple nice rushes, and that last play was really something we hadn't seen from the Steelers defense all year. Watt forces the pass to be thrown, and Morgan Burnett breaks up the pass, and that's it. And the Steelers come away with the win. Tell me about your thoughts on the final sequence of events there.
Oh, well, on the final play, I was scared. I had flashbacks to Keenan Allen catching a touchdown off a ricochet only 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, Jesus, Gronk is right there. And luckily Gronk didn't turn around, because that ball was catchable. That ball was in his range after Morgan Burnett knocked it up. It was just, I was so scared for a second, but I mean, it was great plays by the defense to hold there. I mean, at the end, Tom Brady sailed 2 passes, and basically he had to shoot for the end zone or nothing, because It was third. It was 2nd and 15 and 3rd and 15. With you could have gotten the first down at the Pittsburgh 10, but like essentially, if you don't get if you don't get to stay in bounds, if you don't get out of bounds, the clock is running. You have to get 10 yards up, get your offense all set, then spike the ball, and this is with about 26 seconds remaining. So it wasn't looking good. So he's taking shots at the end zone, just kind of blindly hoping that someone came with it. And just great plays by the defense to keep Gronk blanketed and playing really good coverage for the most part, and just came out with the win because of it. The defense really saved the day for this team today on Sunday.
I guess at the end of the day, let me ask you, from an offensive and defensive perspective, would you rather have 3 shots at the end zone from the from like the what was it? I think it was like the 17-yard line, something like that. What was it? I'm forgetting. No. It was like the 21, right?
The Pittsburgh 21.
So would you rather have 3 shots at the end zone from the 21 or 1 from the 10-yard line? On offense, I think I'd rather have the former, and actually, I think on defense, I'd almost rather have the former too.
I guess
it depends.
For offense, I want the 3 shots. For defense, I want the 1. That's what I think.
I guess it depends, really. I suppose, yeah, I understand it. It really does depend, but the Steelers were absolutely blanketing Gronkowski. I mean, I felt like there were 4 defenders near him at all times.
Oh, yeah, they definitely had. They were like, we are not letting you run over us for the 5th consecutive time.
So finally, the Steelers come away with the victory over the Patriots. It really felt unbelievable. It really felt like that wasn't going to happen, but they get the job done. And just your closing thoughts on the game before we move into the rest of the week in the NFL.
We saw a Patriots team that was not like the others we've seen in the past. This was a very sloppy Patriots team. And coming in, they were first in penalties, I believe. Like, they had the lowest amount. And then they came out of this with, 10 penalties or something ridiculous
14.
like that for 106 yards or something close to that? Like, we haven't been used to it. And the penalties really screwed them. Penalties and drops just really, really hurt the Patriots in this game. And it's just not something we've been used to. So I just wanted to point that out.
They had 14 for 106, which was the most since 2014.
A lot of sloppy play from them. Like I said, we haven't been used to this from a Patriots squad.
Yeah, as great as the Steelers played, keep in mind the Patriots were sloppy as well, but obviously a huge win. And we'll continue to talk about this game, but let's shift gears to the rest of the NFL in week 15. So now Sunday football, we already talked. I don't think we covered Saturday football, did we? We did because we did.
We talked. We did in the podcast right as the Browns won.
That's right, we did. So now Sunday football, the Cardinals and Falcons. The Falcons just went all over the Cardinals. They're going to be probably changing coaches at some point soon here. Cardinals on a fast track for the top pick.
Yeah, Cardinals were really bad. I mean, they actually went up first. They were up 7-0 and then or 7-3, and then Rosen threw a pick 6 his 4th of the year, and it really sealed the deal. And the Falcons just never looked back. Falcons just stomped on them, which I didn't expect.
Lions at Bills, not a very entertaining game, but the Bills come away with a 1-point win because Matt Prater missed a PAT. Or no, he didn't miss it. There was a problem with the snap and the hold, I believe. But either way, it comes back to bite them. The Bills won a nail-biter.
Yeah, 14-13, and it really screwed with the covering since Bills had to beat them by 2.5. So neither of us were right on that one.
The Bears are NFC North champions for the first time since 2010, which also was the last time they beat the Packers in Soldier Field. A momentous win for Mitchell Trubisky and the Chicago Bears.
The Packers are just a mess. The Packers are a very talentless football team. Besides, like, a few guys on offense, they're just not looking good. I think they need to go into a rebuilding mode, to be honest. I mean, do they have time to rebuild with Aaron Rodgers being as old as he is? I don't know. I don't know if Rodgers will ever make it to the Super Bowl ever again with the Packers being how they are. So just unfortunate. But the Bears look like Super Bowl favorites at the moment. Speaking of the Super Bowl, Bears look like they've taken a rise after the Saints have had 3 consecutive weeks with terrible offenses. And then the Rams just lost to the Eagles, and the Rams have looked bad. Jared Goff has looked bad. It's like almost like people have just found out what the Rams are doing and just found out how to stop it. The Bears are rolling, though.
100%. They look like the best team in the NFC today, which, of course, could change over the final 2 weeks. But right now, they look like the league's best team, at least on the NFC side. Raiders at Bengals, not a whole lot going on here. The Bengals come away with the win. The Raiders are terrible, and the Steelers should have beaten them.
Oh, yeah. It's really sad when you see Jeff Driscoll beat the Raiders by 2 touchdowns without A.J. Green and without Tyler Boyd for about half the game. Just absolutely just embarrassing and terrible to see. But, I mean, I guess it makes sense. That's a typical Steelers loss for you.
Cowboys at Colts. The Colts, I expected them to win. I didn't expect them to absolutely smother Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and the Cowboys. 23-0. They just absolutely destroyed this team.
The Colts really want to make it to the playoffs. I thought that the Cowboys are going to win outright, and just Cowboys' offense just keeps holding them back. Their defense is so good with Van Der Esch and all those guys. Just their offense, it seemed like they were getting it together with like big games from Dak and Amari Cooper. Just couldn't get any points on the board here. Just terrible turnovers and stuff from Dak.
Dolphins at Vikings. Kirk Cousins finally does what a quarterback paid like he does is supposed to do, win football games and play well in the process. They beat the Dolphins, and that kind of helps out the rest of the AFC playoff picture a little bit. Your thoughts?
See, I don't even think he played well. I think that they were blowing them out by using the run game because before they fired their offensive coordinator, they were running 33% of the time. In this game, they were running 66% of the time. They're up 21-0. Kirk Cousins let them get back in the game by throwing a pick six. It was 21-14 at one point because he threw that pick six and it gave the Dolphins momentum. Obviously, Vikings ended up running away with it, but again, I will emphasize that Kirk Cousins is not a difference maker, and they had to lean on the run to do good because they're on 21-0 because they were rushing 66% of the time and doing well. Just, I hate the Vikings still.
Yeah, no, not. I know you're not a crazy fan of Kirk Cousins, and well, neither am I. Next game, Titans at Giants. I changed my pick to the Titans before kickoff, and that was a smart choice for me. The Giants got smothered. The Titans, they're a sneaky playoff team right now, even though I don't really think they're a good team at all.
Yeah, the Titans are interesting, that's for sure. They win one, they lose one, they win two, they lose two. They're trying to make it. That's what I could say about them. They're trying to make it, but I think Colts have advantage because I don't know if you saw the Week 17 Titans and Colts series, which I mean, depending on how Baltimore does, that could be determining who's the 6th seed there. It depends. Depends on the Steelers, the Ravens, a bunch of things.
Josh Johnson gets his first win since 2011. The Jaguars, embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Washington Redskins at home. What a far fall they have taken.
Oh, boy, Jaguars. You had one good year, and it's really fun to see all the Jaguars fans disappearing. There were so many just like 3 months ago, and now they're all gone. It's really – I couldn't be happier at this point because Jacksonville fans were annoying the heck out of me last year, and now they're all back to irrelevancy, which is fantastic.
I feel bad for my buddy Josh, but in any case, the Buccaneers continue their slide downwards. Lamar Jackson wins another start. He's been impressive for the Ravens. I'm glad the Steelers don't have to play them again right away. The Ravens come away with the win, keep pace with the Steelers, which makes this win over the Patriots even more impressive.
Yeah, the Buccaneers actually held on for a little bit. I mean, they were up for a majority of the first half, and then the Baltimore Ravens ran away with it. But I had hope for the Buccaneers at first because they had the lead for most of the first half. Then Gus Edwards just ran away.
And now, the trap game of the week. It's a trap! The 49ers hosting the Seahawks. We both thought the Seahawks would win convincingly. Maybe Vegas isn't that crazy. Only 3.5 points. The Niners come out and win in overtime. I know neither of us really saw much of this game given the fact that it was on the same time the Steelers game was on, but really a missed opportunity for the Seahawks, who I thought were rounding into form, and now they just look like another team again.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, this broke after the Browns won against the Broncos. This broke the longest active win streak in the NFL against a single team. The Seahawks had won 10 straight against the 49ers and then just lost this one. So unfortunate for them, but it's just I heard, based on what I heard, it seems like the refs played a big role in this one, but I don't know how much truth there is behind that.
Eagles come away with a huge win on Sunday Night Football, and you talked about it. Jared Goff not looking too good. The Rams suddenly look like a team with some serious flaws.
The Rams are just having a load of issues, and I mean, their defense isn't playing up to par. Marcus Peters looks bad. Jared Goff looks bad. They had a fumble on special teams. Like, they need to fix everything up. Like, it's never good to trend downwards in December. And two of the top teams coming into December have trended downwards, the Rams and the Saints. Just not good. Also, the Patriots. The Patriots have trended downwards in December, which is not something we're used to. So, just not good play from the Rams. Just absolutely, Nick Foles about to lead them to another Super Bowl.
The Patriots, as you mentioned, first time they've lost 2 back-to-back games in December since 2002. A year before Troy Polamalu was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's how long ago that was. Also, the last time that a Tom Brady-led team in which he started all their games didn't make the playoffs. You remember in 2008, Matt Castle replaced an injured Tom Brady who tore his ACL in Week 1. They went 11-5. Best team that never made the playoffs. An 11-win team that didn't make the playoffs. That's kind of crazy, but in any case, it's a long time. And then Monday Night Football just concluded recently. The New Orleans Saints have clinched home field advantage in the NFC playoffs with a slight 12-9 victory over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are in a free fall. They still are. But that's good news for the Steelers. With the Saints having locked up home field advantage, perhaps they'll have a little less to play for than originally anticipated, giving the Steelers perhaps a better chance to win.
Yeah, hopefully it's good. I mean, that combined with the one less day of rest that the Saints are going to have going into the Steelers game, hopefully that plays into the Steelers' favor because the Steelers can clinch playoff berth this next week.
Indeed. But before we move into next week, let's wrap up the Steelers' win over the Patriots this week. Let's get into our award section. And as you know, the Big Stop of the Week award awarded weekly to the best defensive play made by a Steelers player. I never announced it last week. I'll get that posted. I've been a slob in posting them, so I apologize, but I'll get those done shortly. And this week, it's really probably the easiest one we've ever had. The struggles of the defensive backs and really the defense in general, the forced turnovers, they got kind of an unforced error last week by Derek Carr. And this week, Tom Brady tosses up kind of a prayer, and Joe Hayden comes up with the huge interception, and we'll have it on audio here for you. So just you can take a listen to the momentous interception by Joe Hayden that really turned the tide of the game with the Steelers up 14-10, but with the Patriots at the Steelers' 17-yard line threatening to score on a 2nd and goal with just under 8 minutes to go in the game.
Now the pressure. Brady heaves it, and is it intercepted? He came down with it, and the feet down for Hayden. Intercepted. Rolling on the field, the feet were down. Brady under pressure, he never makes this type of mistake. Throws it down the sideline. Hayden comes off Edelman. And a catch. Yes. Whoa.
Really a huge play there, Austin. So Joe Hayden is this week's Big Stop of the Week award winner. So congratulations to him for his game-changing interception of Tom Brady. There were a lot of good players that could have been chosen for the Player of the Week. Who do you think it is?
For me, for his 19 carries for 142 yards on the ground and 2 receptions for 30 yards, including one on a critical third down where he had the great football knowledge to fall inbounds, keep taking timeout clock, Jalen Samuels is this week's Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week. I can't say I saw that coming if I were to predict who would have won it this week coming into the game.
Absolutely. And as far as play of the game goes, I think it really has to be Joe Hayden's interception, but do you want to pick an honorable mention just so that we can play the audio for something different?
The honorable mention, it's gonna have to be James Washington's big grab for me. I felt like that was a big game changer for him. That was like what we see. That's what we saw in the preseason and training camp, and that's what we're waiting for to translate onto the actual regular season field. And it was a great time to have it. I mean, James Washington's big grab was just something else.
And he made 2 big grabs on that drive. The first one went for 32 yards, and the second one went for 24. And ultimately, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that ended in Chris Boswell's missed field goal, correct?
I do believe so.
All right, so here we have the audio for you on that grab.
For Pittsburgh, off the side, no question, as Roethlisberger loads it up, goes down the field. What a catch! What a catch by Washington! But that's what they've been waiting for around here. You said it. What a catch it is on McCourty. Washington, get your head around and then go up and get it. And to win the big games in December, you need big performances, and that catch is one of those rare plays that you don't always get from a player in Washington. They said he's good. They like him.
All right, so that was the honorable mention for the play of the game, stacking up with Joe Hayden's interception. So really a lot of great plays, and that play by James Washington, really Lynn Swann-esque, if I'm being honest with you. He jumped up and right over the defender and made a fantastic grab. So let me just segue right into our winners. He was my offensive winner. He led the Steelers in receiving on Sunday, and he finally had that breakout game we've been looking for. All 3 of his catches were important, and his biggest one, the 32-yarder, it showed that what we saw in the preseason was not a fluke. He really looked like he belonged, and this was a really good sign. And my other winner was Joe Hayden, the winner of the Big Stop of the Week award. He had one of his best games of his great NFL career. Despite a bad interference penalty, he was great in every other facet. He was a physical run defender. He had a huge hit on Julian Edelman. He led the team with 12 tackles. He was great in coverage, had 2 pass deflections, and obviously that key interception. So he was all over the field and a huge winner in my book, Austin.
For me, it was Jalen Samuels. I definitely can't say I expected his performance at all. I really thought this game was going to be about throwing, but Samuels was just a monster in this game on his carries and whenever he got the ball in his hand. And then for defense, it was Cameron Hayward. Hayward didn't get the most stats, 4 combined tackles, but his pressure was undeniable. He got 2 quarterback hits and was getting Brady moving a lot. Him and T.J. Watt were doing great work without the stats. They were just applying so much pressure. Who were your losers in this game?
My losers were, these were hard, by the way. I don't really feel these were deserved losses, but on offense, I went with Stephen Ridley. Look, he played very well on the 3 carries he had. I felt like he was solid, and he's only a loser because I was expecting a big game from him. And, given the fact that it was a revenge game, I wanted more from him. But obviously, with the way Jalen Samuels played, you're not going to bother with giving Ridley the ball 20 times when Samuels was playing as well as he was. So, you take that result any time of the day. So, hard for me to find offensive losers here. And then on defense, it's Artie Burns, and we already talked about it. It's not really his fault. Mike Tomlin stated that the touchdown allowed was not on him, but it's got to be really hurting his confidence to get one chance, and he's got to be feeling good. It's like, all right, I'm finally getting a chance, and 3 plays later, it's like, see ya. And it's like, oh, okay then, thanks. So I feel bad for the kid, but he's an easy loser on defense. Who are your losers?
For me, I doubled down on the kicking specialist. It was Chris Boswell's 2nd week in a row, but that 32-yard miss could have been a killer for them. I realize he hit that 48-yarder, but missing the ones under 40 are what's terrible. I just can't defend that. 9 points in 2 weeks he has cost the Steelers. It's his time, in my opinion, but apparently not the Steelers' opinion. Then I made Barry my other one. He had 2 punts for 78 yards. Neither of his punts were really good. One went inside the 20, just at the 19, but you wanted them to go a little bit further. It wasn't exactly terrible, just not exactly as not good. I wouldn't call it good on averaging 39 yards per punt. So he's my other loser.
All right, and we're going to be having another edition of our brand new award, but it's not a Steelers-only award. So tell us who won this dubious honor.
Well, for putting up 0 points after having 2 fire weeks in a row, the Cowboys' offense wins the weaker than aluminum foil, stronger than steel. The weaker than aluminum foil. I'm sorry, I can't speak. Weaker than aluminum foil failure of the week. Dak threw an interception. Ezekiel Elliott lost the fumble, and they were failures.
Not a good day for the Dallas Cowboys. Can they bounce back?
I mean, maybe, but likely not.
All right, so the Dallas Cowboys offense, the dubious honor of winning the weaker than aluminum foil failure of the week. The Steelers injury report, let's get into that real quick. Only a few names, but they all were important defensive players that left the game. They did all return, but we'll see if these injuries sideline them next week. Vince Williams, Bud Dupree, and Cam Hayward. I thought Cam Hayward's was going to be really serious, but they, as you mentioned, they all return. Are you really concerned more about any of them in particular, or just how you feeling?
No, I'm not concerned. I mean, they all came back into the game. I'm sure they could have been playing on adrenaline, but how serious could it be if they return to the game, even if it's just playing on adrenaline?
All right, so let's get into some NFL news. Frank Gore, the Dolphins running back, is out for the season with an ankle sprain, and the Chargers have activated tight end Hunter Henry from the PUP list, so they now have 21 days to activate him. You have any thoughts on these news and notes?
Well, I think that activating Hunter Henry is a big deal because I know Antonio Gates has been a great player in the past, but he's past his prime. I mean, he's just kind of there. I think Hunter Henry coming into this year, I thought highly of. So if Hunter Henry can return to form and actually make it to this active roster, it could be a big help for their playoff push that's going to be happening.
And they've already got a ton of momentum, so it could be a really huge, significant addition to this Chargers offense that has already been clicking on several levels of late. All right, so I guess just final thoughts. Let's wrap up the Steelers game here. What was more true in your mind? The Patriots are falling apart, and are worse than we thought, or are the Steelers? Did they just play really well, and are they better than we thought? Because I think we can agree that it's both, but which is it more of?
I think it's more of the Patriots falling apart because really at the end of the day, you look at how the Steelers won, and the Patriots shot themselves in the foot so much that they just couldn't win. I mean, when you have 3 dropped passes, you have 107 penalty yards, it's going to kill you. That's a lot. And I mean, Tom Brady wasn't at his best. He made a bad decision. So I think that this was more the Patriots falling apart than the Steelers playing good. But I do still think the Steelers play good, as you said. It's a little bit of both. But if I were to pick which one affected it more, I think the Patriots are falling apart. What do you think?
I would completely agree. I think both teams shot themselves in the foot here. But, the Patriots, the Tom Brady red zone interception, the 14 penalties, that's just, you don't see that. They played their worst game at an important time, and they are now 3-5 on the road. They haven't had a losing season on the road since, I think, 2009, so just not good at all. So they're closer to falling apart than the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender at this point. But obviously, the Steelers did play very well, I thought, too. So what have we learned about the Steelers based on this game?
I feel like nothing. I feel like this win means nothing. I mean, it just, I feel like the Steelers could be good or bad. That's the problem. That's why I don't feel like this win told me, yeah, the Steelers are a really good team right now and could run through the playoffs because they beat New England. I don't feel that at all. I feel confused. Like the team loses 3 straight and then decides to turn around against the Patriots because they're sort of forced to if they want to make the playoffs. Like I feel like we've learned nothing. What do you think?
I feel like we haven't learned a ton, but it will reiterate something we learned against the Panthers. This team can beat anybody when they're clicking on all cylinders. And they weren't even clicking on all cylinders in this game, but they beat a team that is likely making the playoffs as a division winner. They're likely hosting a playoff game. This is still a good football team. And the fact that the Steelers beat them the way that they did with the defensive performance they had, when the offense gets going, it tells me they can really put it together like we saw against the Panthers earlier this year. This can be a dangerous team, and they can win the Super Bowl. But again, they need to be more consistent, and consistency has been an issue with this team forever, it feels. But I think it told me that they can be good enough to win, but whether or not they will be, that's a question. But they had what it took in this game, and I'm confident that in any single game they could do it, but I don't know if they can do it 3 or 4 straight games. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think that's a fair assessment. Just way too inconsistent to say, yeah, this team is going to win 4 straight against some of the best teams in the league this year. Just not easy.
Next week would go a long way towards helping that or hurting that as well. Do you think Jalen Samuels could be getting some more playing time even with James Conner coming back? Assuming Conner isn't eased back into it coming off of injury this week, what do you think the Steelers do at the running back position? Because, James Conner is clearly your top back, but, Jalen Samuels, come on, man. He just had a career game against the Patriots.
Yeah, Jalen Samuels definitely put a bid in to get a few more carries, and I do think it's going to work. Typically this season, besides, the Panthers game where it was a short week, we saw James Conner get, all the carries, and then, Stephen Ridley get 1 or 2, and Jalen Samuels get 1. I think Samuels, maybe from now on, might have earned himself 5 carries a game. Maybe it's a few more plays to give James Conner a breather, as maybe they feel a little bit more confident in having James Conner off the field. I think, in no regard do I think that James Conner is going to get a minority of snaps and Jalen Samuels get the majority. I just think Jalen Samuels earned himself 3 more reps a game based on his play with Conner gone. What do you think?
I agree. I think 5 to 10 touches a game is right around the sweet spot for Samuels, and I think he's probably a better receiver than James Conner as far as a route runner goes. I wouldn't hate seeing both of them on the field at the same time, but I know Mike Tomlin will never do that.
No, you could barely get Knicks out there.
All right. So the Steelers are 8-5-1, huge win over the Patriots. They're in New Orleans next week. I'll have my buddy Jesse, our analyst, if you will, of the New Orleans Saints on to talk about them. So we'll have a little insider information about the Saints this week, and then we'll talk a bit about this upcoming matchup. The Saints now, I believe, 12-2 going into their final 2 games. They have home field advantage. They haven't looked great, but they've accomplished pretty much the goal that you set out at the start of the year in the regular season. They've got home field, so we'll see kind of what they're looking at going forward. So if you have any questions about the show, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com and check out our website listed in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us today, and as always, have a fantastic night.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.